What's going on, guys? Welcome in. What's going on, A? What a start to the week. Today was actually a pretty good day. I like today's price action. Tom, I saw you with that rev ticker. What? That thing exploded. Wait, actually, what is it sitting at right now? Hold up, back that up. Was it REV? I think it was. Yes, and it's still exploding. My goodness. What a find out of that one. Jeez. $9 actually might be in the picture for this. You might see this come out to $9. And I'm sure you're still loaded on that. I wouldn't even doubt it. I wouldn't put that past you. But pretty much kind of getting started, guys. Today was definitely a good start to the week after we kind of saw that onslaught last week. It was definitely a good rebound. We pretty much heard Avery kind of mention into the end of the day here. We do have Powell kind of testifying tomorrow morning. So that's something that hopefully you guys actually have a moderate position or something light for that matter, if I want to say, that you're not going to be worried if the market does pretty much tank tomorrow. So that's just something hopefully you guys were aware of that you kind of heard. I know that he dropped that. I don't know if they mentioned it on live, possibly. I'm assuming Avery would likely have done so. But that's something to be on watch here tomorrow. Everything that kind of usually points out to me kind of says that we have a little bit more to the upside here, at least. Granted, the fact that it is a bear market rally, we know that bear market rallies are pretty much just temporary. I've said a number of times, usually in this kind of environment, I think it's been for this entire year for that matter, you basically short the bounce rather than pretty much trying to buy the dip. Now, the only scenario here is trying to find that timing of when to short this rip. So I think that we still have a little bit more to the upside here, but the fact that we have so many speakers, Powell pretty much testifies back to back days. I think it's going to be more so lead up to the fact of the comments of what he says and how he pretty much reacts to all the inflation and further rate hikes that he's going to testify about. So that's something where I think it's going to be more judgmental on of what comes out of his mouth, more so than say I want to say more so the technicals want to kind of picture that this play out. All right. But looking for pretty much upside here. And what I'm looking at is I'm looking for a break over 378 on SPY. We get a break over 378 on SPY. My first PT is sitting at 381 half. And then my full on upside target would be that anchor view up I have sitting from COVID low still. That's at 384.83. So that's pretty much still my two PTs, that 381 half. And then if you want to say ballpark is 385. Those are the two key levels that I'm pretty much still watching. All right. So that's basically the two levels I'm going to watch for the upside. Otherwise, if we're looking to pretty much break down, I'm watching for us to pretty much enter this gap fill below this 371.81. I'm looking to enter into that gap fill, and then we can start talking about pretty much making a lower low than we did to close out last week. So that's pretty much the flip side, up and down. Now, kind of getting into the fun stuff, I kind of went through quite a bit of a lot of the tech names that are out there right now. First one that kind of just stood out, and I'm gonna get into a direction with this one in particular, is that kind of watching Boeing here. We had this nice little megaphone. I know that Avery kind of touched on this one. I think towards the end of last week. I know he was calling out for this one to go higher. I think he called it like literally right on the nose. That had a beautiful breakout into the end of last week. I'm watching this one still for further upside here. I want to see us take out that high of today's price action. Over 141.12, I still have a next PT sitting here up towards 146. That's going to be my next level of my next level of PT basically. And then above that, I'm watching 149 is my overall PT on that. Do I expect it to go over 149? I'll be honest with you, no, I do not. So 146 and then 149 is the two levels that I'm watching in particular. Now, here's where I want to get kind of a flip side of this. Kind of get a mental image of how this megaphone looks right now on Boeing. And I'm going to flip over to another chart that kind of looks exactly almost like this, but a little bit more premature. Now, if I get over to Meta, this looks almost exactly the same way. Kind of get into the 15 minute. I think the 15 minute shows it. So now, if I pretty much expand this, you literally look almost the same identical pattern, same formation that is actually going on right here right now. So you ended up having that nice breakdown. You kind of gave yourself a little bit of a downtrend support in which you would expect to see a reversal. So that's what I'm actually going to be watching for on Facebook. I saw the onslaught that we had today. It didn't seem like it was anything news related in particular that stood out to me. So I'm going to look to see if we can snap back out of this one. Keep pretty much a little bit of a minor level that I'm watching here is getting back over 159 half. We do need to reclaim 159 half, But the big level that I'm watching here for a full-on breakout, if this megaphone's gonna play out in the same way that we saw Boeing has, I'm gonna look to see if we can break out above 162. 162, you see, is that level that we had prior support to resistance last week playing out. And I'm gonna look to see if we get that break over 162 on this one yet again. And if we get that break over 162, I think the upside towards testing gap fill is more intriguing, in which you're gonna end up. I think I'm likely gonna end up going for 172.50 calls on this, because that's literally right at around the mark of testing the gap fill. So, but again, key level is breaking out of 162 first. You get the break over 162. That's about a $10 move to the upside that I'm kind of watching here. That was a newsletter play. It didn't exactly play out to the way that I anticipated. I think today's onslaught kind of gave you a little bit more of a better picture. And that's why I did compare it to how Boeing's chart looks, almost identical in the same pattern. So I'm going to look to see if we can pretty much get a beautiful breakout. The volume was there last week. I saw the call flow just outpacing puts. I think the same thing ended up happening today yet again, despite the onslaught that we had. It just feels like I smell a reversal coming on this one, and everyone just kind of just stepping in and just leaning towards the bear side. I think they're eventually going to get squeezed here at some point in time. Whether that be tomorrow or the day after, that's where the question mark lies. But just remember the key level, 162. That's pretty much the key level that you just want to have in the back of your mind. All right. Other than that one, kind of going through some other ones that kind of crossed my mind was also Google. Google actually has a beautiful flag setting up here on this one off the 15-minute. That's just a textbook flag right now. You see it kind of leaning towards the downside here. That was the only thing that kind of cautioned about me. I want to see if we snap back above this 22.28 level. If we can snap back above the 22.28 level, I do think that this flag still has potential to play out to the upside. Breakout level that I would particularly watch for is over 22.48. You get the break over 22.48, and you're looking at testing gap fill here at 22.66. All right. Otherwise, if you can't snap back and you can't reclaim that 22.28, then that's when it starts to get ugly. A little bit of minor support sitting at 22.11, and then that's going to be pretty much a free fall below that 22.11. All right. So that's another one kind of keep an eye on as well. Apple, beautiful price action today. I think this is one that once I saw it pre-market, I kind of saw it shaping out to just be a phenomenal breakout. I was actually watching basically retest what we had as a prior resistance dating back towards September of 2020. You had again February of 2021, and then July of 2021. That level was that 147, 137 level, and that was exactly the level that we smacked our head on right at the high of the day here on Apple. So I want to see if we can pretty much build a base over that 137 level on Apple here. If we can build a base over the 137 on Apple here, then I'm looking to test the gap fill at 140, close enough to about 140 half. Exact level for that gap fill to enter is over 140.76. So I'm going to look for that one over 137. You look for the 140.76 on the gap fill test. And then if we get over that gap fill, now you're looking at the downtrend resistance that you see in the orange line. And this kind of aligns with stepping in towards potentially your third PT of 144. So that's one I'm going to continue to keep an eye on as well. We saw that when Microsoft kind of lead the day. And I can't even say lead the day because we already saw what Tesla and Google did as well. So I can't necessarily say lead the day, but it was a good sign having Microsoft and Apple both kind of just showing relative strength amongst this entire movement that we had today. The only thing that was more of a head scratcher was the fact that the VIX was only down less than $1 and we exploded to the north. That was the only head scratcher that I had. We'll see how the VIX pretty much reacts tomorrow. I did have a little bit of a overhead supply on the VIX, pretty much sitting right around this 34 half to 35 level. So I see why we ended up rejecting. We hit our head on that dating back towards the beginning of May here. So I see why we ended up getting that rejection at that level, that supply level, and we pretty much started to break down. Now I'm gonna look to see if we can continue this breakdown. If we can break down under 28 half, that's gonna be the bigger level that I'm watching here on the VIX to break down below that. Otherwise, if we end up starting to see a V-shaped recovery and we start to break north back over this 31 level, that's when I'm gonna be a little bit cautious. And I'm sure it'll probably be on the back end of some words, some kind words that Powell's gonna have to say tomorrow when he testifies. All right. But hopefully that kind of kept it a little short and sweet, kind of just a focal point of some names that I think stand out the most amongst others. But if we continue this rally, we have a lot of names that will continue. Tesla had a monster day. I think starting from Hunter and Mamba in the Dojo channel, they literally just murdered Tesla calls. I think they were up about 100 to like 300%. So that was something that was phenomenal today, up about $60 in a day. I did not see that coming. I don't think a lot of people saw that coming, but that's something that was phenomenal. But I think the biggest thing is watching to see what's the continuation on Microsoft and Apple tomorrow. If the market does continue to stay green, look to see if Microsoft and Apple kind of lead the way yet again, because being a two-headed monster right now, I want to see if any one of them show any weakness here tomorrow. All right. What's going on, Randy? So I'm gonna kind of leave it short and sweet right there. Mr. Seriously, you took a short position on Tesla 650 monthly puts. Now, see, I would say that it's not a bad play right now. Granted, the fact that it went for a near $61 run almost to end the day, I don't see anything wrong with that particularly. The only thing is that I hope you got a starter entry, because if we continue to maybe see a gap up here tomorrow, that's where you're going to find yourself in some trouble. Especially with Powell kind of testifying, I would have expected the market to maybe be spooked leading into his testimony tomorrow. But I don't see that the market's spooked, especially the fact that we closed out so strong. So look to see how we gap up tomorrow morning. Maybe, and it'll be up to your discretion whether you end up cutting your loss or you end up averaging down on that Tesla put. But that's just something to be mindful about, the fact that I don't think the market's spooked just yet. And if we end up rolling over, I think it's going to be more so on the back end of what Powell ends up saying during his testimony. All right. But other than that, Apple had good news too. That was also something that I also saw. I saw the headline with Apple, so that's something that when I saw the price action this morning, coupled with the news, I was like, I know that Apple was gonna have a great day. And looking at that key level from that prior breakout that I kind of highlighted just a few minutes ago, that 137 level is a very critical level for Apple. So I'm gonna look to see if we pretty much reclaim that level over that 137, and then that 142-ish level is going to be the next one in play towards that gap fill. All right. What do I think about FedEx earnings, bank or tank? When is that earnings, by the way? I know that they ended up tanking on the back end of their last earnings. I haven't looked at the chart recently for FedEx. It actually doesn't look half bad compared to how I've seen it the last time I looked at it. You did end up breaking your downtrend resistance, so that's actually a positive for it. Now, if I were to say pretty much, I don't expect too much of a movement out of it. But if I were to say you'd probably get up to about 245, I think that's pretty much a doable level here. That looks to be a level in which you had prior support and you also had your breakdown as well. So you see that you had your breakout at that 245 level. You had a nice high that pretty much sitting right there at the October 2020. You ended up retesting that same level as support before you launched up to make a new all-time high. And then you pretty much teetered between support to resistance before you ended up breaking down below that 245, 246 level. So if I was inclined to say, I think that this has legs to the upside here, but 245, 246 would be your upside target. I don't expect it to break above that level. And if it be the case, your breakdown level, you're looking at 217 for the downside. So maybe if it ends up being worth it, maybe you do a lotto, maybe a 240-ish call downside, maybe about 220 call. And you kind of see how you play it, maybe on both sides, depending upon the premium, of course. All right. But 217 would be my downside target. Upside target would be 245-ish would be my upside target. But the fact that you broke the downtrend resistance, I would lean bullish on this one right now. All right. I know that they tanked on the last one, so I would assume some kind of rebound off of this. I don't think they're gonna get slaughtered like that. So that's just something. Maybe I'm being a little biased, but the fact that they broke down trend and I see a pivotal level that we broke down, retested off of prior breakout, I would expect to retest it, but as a resistance this time around. All right. So I'll kind of wrap it up there, guys. We do have classes going to be started here in about a few minutes. Sig and Dapper should be starting. I don't know what today's topic is, by the way. So I'm likely going to end up dropping in there, see what they're talking about, and see if there's anything that's some goodies that they got for us. But other than that, I'll leave it kind of short and sweet there. Hopefully you guys have a better day tomorrow. But again, just be mindful about Powell talking. Wait for his dust to pretty much settle in, whatever comments he says, before you end up getting caught in that volatility. All right. But other than that, appreciate you guys joining. I will see you guys again tomorrow. But later, guys. Appreciate it.